Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. This is welcome to the Afterglow Live Recap Podcast. My name is Syya. And Erin, are you on mute again?
Sorry, I am on mute. I'm Erin Gregor. Sorry. Is it Monday or is it Friday? I can't quite keep up.
I know, Erin. Tell me about it. I had to reboot my laptop 3 times this morning. So this is going to be one of those days, guys, but that's okay. So this week we are thrilled to recap the weekly Global Leaders Organization weekly meeting. This week we had Mr. Gary Hoover. Gary Hoover is, if you are familiar with Hoovers.com fame, he is one of the originators of that, but he's now currently the executive director at the American Business History Center. He's also a professor at the Hoover Academy. And just bottom line, amazing encyclopedia of all things retail strategy, analysis, and business. So on that note, this week we are welcoming re-welcoming back a GLO member, Mr. Egbert Lim with iRefresh Wellness Center, or Refresh Wellness. Welcome back, Egbert.
You're welcome. Thank you. Did I disappear from the screen real quick?
You did. We see your backsplash, but we don't see you.
Ah, that's interesting.
It's like a ghost.
Yes, I'm trying to experiment with my magic skills right now.
Okay, so. Well, you have disappeared. And he's appeared. All right.
Oh my gosh, yay for magic hacks.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. And so for those that maybe have not seen you before, tell us about, who you are and iRefresh Wellness.
Well, good morning, guys. iRefresh Wellness provides a hydrogen inhalation experience to the public. We have the first actually hydrogen experience center in the United States here in Plano. So anyone looking to increase their immune system, strengthen their health, we're welcome to reach out and share more.
So I think, Erin, I see
your dog wants to get in the podcast too.
I know. Do you have a dog?
I have 2 ferocious little chihuahuas. So.
Yes. My Jack Russell and my Pitbull mix were fighting literally 2 minutes ago. So we'll just have a dog party. So real quick, so hydrogen therapy, like what exactly does that mean? And what does that, what's the benefit? Because I didn't catch that last time and I apologize. I should have asked a little bit more questions there.
Sure. Hydrogen has been in research for a long time. So since 2007, one of the a Japanese researcher, professor, doctor, so we heard about miracle water, right? In France and this, so people went there, they hop into this kind of like hot springs and they found out, wait a minute, I'm cured. So what happened was everybody was astounded by the result of that. And so researchers start to just gather up the water and bring it back to the lab and test what's going on with this water. What's weird about it? It's miraculous. And only to find that, wait a minute, this is just normal water. And they tested for multiple times. They sent in different, they had different test labs, did the test, and they say, this is weird. It's impossible. Every element of it is just a normal water. So they decided to move the lab right beside the location because they suspect there's something different. So when they tested it, just right when they retrieved the sample of water, they found out it's all about hydrogen. So, and the reason why their test samples showed a normal result because hydrogen is the smallest molecule in your chemical table. So it evaporates, it's odorless, you can't see it. So that's why whenever they got their samples, brought it back, it dissolved into thin air. So that's why the results were empty. But they found out it was the hydrogen that was giving all this healing effect, and they started to do more research about it and found out that hydrogen actually helps with our immune system. It actually destroys the free radicals in the body, the toxic free radicals that actually causes disease in our body, and any disease starts from the free radicals, and it becomes a disease. So hydrogen surprisingly targets the toxic free radicals only and stays away from the good free radicals in our body and helps strengthen your immune system. So we have also results from Asia that they use hydrogen and oxygen respirators and generators to address the COVID issue successfully. So trying to bring that to the United States.
Very cool.
That's very, very cool. So, I mean, this to me is like, it sounds like a new solution, right? For a problem that we are experiencing today. I think it's one of the things that Gary Hoover kind of mentioned is, when you enter into business, one of the things that he first said, just kicked it off right off the bat, is he felt, and he stated that business entrepreneurs, business leaders don't do enough business research. So Egbert, can I ask you, how much research did you do prior to launching iRefresh Wellness?
Actually, quite a little bit. So that's the reason why I'm able to explain a little bit more, even though I'm not as technical. I'm not like a chemistry major or anything like that, but it's actually through a personal experience. So back in 2017, I got out of my other businesses. I sold my restaurants and a couple of other businesses just to go overseas and do some treatment. So because of my spine, I had an accident back in 2003. My car flipped down the hill in Colorado, Grand Junction. So I'm thankful that I survived that. I was in the hospital for a month and a half, but wow. There were after effects to that. So usually after 10, 15 years, that's what the doctors usually says. So I went through a series of spine adjustments and things like that, including decompression, plus hydrogen too. So that was when I started to experience hydrogen, and because of my the side effects of it, not of hydrogen, of my injury, my hands were numb, my feet were numb, and hydrogen helped in the process of that healing. So I thought this was something wonderful, miraculous too at that time, and I started to read more about it and did a little bit more research in regards to this area, and found that there's actually more than 1,500 researchers that has been done, paper, journals published all over the internet in regards to hydrogen and its effect on, your respiratory system, cancer, and many other areas in regards to, health.
Wow. So, if I may ask then, because you're a musician, so the fact that you had numbness in your hands, yes. Was that alarming to you? It was.
So that actually was the second accident that prompted me to say, like, okay, I need to go for treatment. So I'm a very active person, and nothing could stop me from doing anything I want. So I was like, well, it's just numbness in my hands and feet. But it happened one day suddenly, and I could not step on the brake. So a second accident occurred that I ran into a truck, just rammed, just like that, because I could not feel my hands, my feet, but I was ready for it. So it was good. And that prompted me to say, like, okay, no, I need to go get treatment for this. If not, I would have just left it like, okay, yeah, just probably numbness would go away, or, I'll be okay later and things like that. So it's an experience, but it has opened me up to hydrogen and this new opportunity right here.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, on that note, because I think it's somewhat transformative to see that, but going back to, to understand that you did a lot of research, right? Like, is this like some made up science, or is there some, legitimacy behind it? I think that's like the premise of what Gary Hoover is all about. So, did you guys ever go to hoovers.com back in the day?
Past, yeah, I've used it in the past. So, I mean, it makes sense why he'd start that business, right? He knows everything about any kind of business. What I was most impressed about yesterday is I do read a lot. I don't want to say I can't. I don't retain what that man retains. And what's amazing too is he talked about his process of studying. He doesn't sit and just read the whole book cover to cover. He's got a whole process of how he goes through it. So that's even more amazing, is that I'm not going to paraphrase it and say what he does, but you know, on a skimming basis versus a full reading basis, he's still retaining all that information. It was just truly impressive.
I agree. I mean, the mass, I was very excited listening to him talk yesterday because of it's been a while since I've encountered somebody who has that vast knowledge and a global perspective too at the same time, that could talk in regards to not only domestic issues but also a globalized issue and perspective. Yeah, just because I do have a lot of global experience too, so it was really wonderful to have him there and listen to him speak about all his knowledge and share his insights.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I wrote down, which maybe I misunderstood him, and I admit I was taking so much notes that maybe I misheard it. But he was talking about even with some of his past students, he was mentioning don't build a business plan with an exit or with just an exit strategy in mind, and he wanted to reiterate, you will have options if you are running a great business. You're going to have more than just one exit strategy that you probably are intending. Did you guys hear the same thing that I did on that? Because I thought that was a really interesting insight.
And I've heard that before from other investors. I feel like we've kind of lost sight of business building and what it is. Like, you know, like he was saying, a lot of great entrepreneurs don't want to exit. And the minute, you know, his whole point behind that too is once you start introducing investors, there's other interest at hand, and you know, they want their money out, right? Versus you building a business that lasts a long time. So you have to be careful. And if that's your, you know, instead of focusing on what can I build to sell, his message was build something great. Like, and you know, you talk so much about figuring out what that customer wants and how do you keep making that customer experience better? And if you're just focused on, okay, how do I get the numbers right? How do I do this right so I can get out of here? It's really not do you really want to build this business versus how can I continue to make this better? How can I continue to make the lives of my customer better? You focus on that. You've got 20 exit possibilities if you want them, but it's just a different way to look at your business. And I feel like, you know, it's just like, it's the same thing with, you know, I've always expressed this. I have a problem with applauding raises. I really do. It tells me nothing about your business because everybody will throw money to other people. That's great that you got a raise, or you raised money. Congratulations. But my question is always, what are you going to do with that money? Like, to me, that's so much more important of a great business leader versus, I mean, that's great. You're able to stand up in front of some investors and get some money, but what are you doing with that? What are you building with that? That to me is so much more important. We've kind of lost sight in a lot of areas of business.
I think
what I got from that was that to focus on your passion too. That's what he was saying. I mean, the reason why he quoted Disney as a really prominent person in the industry was that he had a passion to achieve something, and that passion actually drove his initiative towards really helping the customers have the satisfaction in their experience throughout their process right there. So
I think it goes back to, as we've heard from many other speakers, authenticity, right? If you start a business for the full sole purpose of cashing out and, you know, dollar bills, y'all type thing, I think you're not going to get that community, loyalty, you know, trust factor that I think is so critical to build a business to begin with, right? And to build a brand that people want to go back to and trust. So, you know, Leslie, Rashmi, you guys are all in agreement as well. You know, Leslie last week, she joined us when she participated in a pitch contest at DFW Tech Startup last year. And everyone asked her immediately, what's your exit strategy for this business? And she's like, I'm just now launching this business. Why am I even, you know, why are you asking me this question? Why don't I get this, you know, the legs running, you know, the car moving first. So with that in mind then, so he was talking about, you know, growing a business from good to great. and making it something and have a bigger impact. One of the things he said that really hit me was no one will stay on top. All the successful number one companies out there right now have this underdog mentality. Do you agree or disagree with that statement? Because I'm not so sure I agree with that.
I mean, I think you have to. I mean, it very much is hard to imagine. Like, you know, we talk about the Googles, the Amazons of the world. Apple would not surprise me to be overtaken. I mean, I know they're a great company, but that one doesn't surprise me. I look at the Amazons and the Googles, and it's hard for us to imagine them. But Amazon is so diversified. You know, there's so many different aspects of it that even if Walmart does come for them, it's a portion of their business, not their whole thing. So, but I think you have to be, if you are that arrogant that nothing's going to change, like you're going to keep up on top, you're going to lose. But you see like the Googles and the Amazons of the world also, like they're not coasting. They actually have colleges because the universities aren't providing what the students that they need. They're behind. You know, we've talked about this before too, where they know they've got to stay up on top. So they're constantly like, what's next? What's next? What's next? Yeah. And if you're just sitting back going, no, we're doing pretty good, I think that you're going to lose. Who knows if, you know, maybe we all know now you can't get cocky and you know, we don't want history to repeat itself. So they're more careful about it. But it is interesting to think. I you know, even just thinking of what Amazon started with and where they're at now, it's just amazing to me. But, you know, Jeff Bezos won't be there forever. And who knows if another leader comes in and makes a few missteps, you just never know.
Well, I kind of agree with his concept of being the underdog always, even though you're at the top, because times change, companies change, everything change, and you evolve according to the industry and the players in the industry. So being that underdog, having that underdog mentality keeps you on your feet to say that, is anybody else doing something innovative that I have to either follow or lead rather than, you know, just stay stagnant? Because anything stagnant so there's a Chinese proverbs too, if you stay stagnant, you're actually moving backward. Because everything else, is actually moving and you're just sitting there and doing nothing. So I have to agree with that, his you know, analogy in terms of always have that underdog mentality. So you're always looking to improve yourself, you know, continuously and adding to your repertoire, adding to your portfolio and improving and giving better, you know, no matter if it's service or product or anything to your customers.
So there's two things that come to mind as you say this, one of which I get it. You have to always be innovating, right? Otherwise you are going to fall back behind times, especially now we're so technology driven, right? For all businesses, all industries. So he did say though, pick one thing that you can master and master it well. And I agree with that, right? Pick one thing. And then as you grow and if you've mastered it, then you can pick up another, you know, tool or whatever. But Amazon is an anomaly. Apple is an anomaly. And he said this, if you copy them, you're going to fail because they are anomalies. What do you think it was about them that they were able to master multiple things and now they're just, you know.
But they built into it. And that's exactly what he said. Like, you know, with Amazon was a bookstore at first, right? That's all they were. And so they built that and they started that and they got really good. Like, Jeff Bezos would always say, we're going to, you know, he'd tell us, the stockholders, we're going to take a loss because we are going to focus on the customer and getting customers, like getting this right. And so then he got that and he expanded. So it's really not necessary. If you tried to say, I'm going to build an Amazon store right now, like it's pretty hard, right? But he did it it was just books. And Apple have, you know, they, like he was saying they do manufacture, they do all of it, but it's like, it's really centered on design. Like Amazon is beautifully designed things. Yes, they have a ton of products, but they just started with computers too and grew into that. So it's not necessarily they completely went against status quo. They're just at a level where they're so big. But with Amazon or with Apple, it was always focused on beautiful design.
Well, I think it's also about integration. So there's no such thing as one thing and one thing only. So taking example from Apple, even if you start with the computer itself, the computer component, you've got your video card, you've got your motherboard, you've got your chipsets, you've got your memory, even anything from there, you got to expand, and they expand into every single element that is related to the original niche, I have to say. So I have to say, like, yes, you do one thing best, but I think they had a niche originally, and that niche and covers all of these other elements. So when you say a computer, yes, I want to sell the best computer, but in your computer, you've got your memory, your video card, your chipset, your all of these other components that comes together to form that computer, where you have to also do well in every single segment to really, be innovative and strive at the front end. So it's about the niche rather than just one thing, I would say.
That's what he said. That I agree with that. I agree with that. So the other thing too, guys, that I thought was really interesting was, and he actually threw it out there. He, speaking of computers and whatnot, he said what he sees the often big mistakes that those that are on top make is that they're not. Yes, they're looking at how to stay on top, but they're not looking at their competition. They're not looking at what is driving the competition, and not looking at the future. He had made comment about IBM laughed out a consultant when that consultant said, "Look out for Dell." And for me, in my world, that's a kind of a funny statement, because you would think intuitively IBM should have been looking at competition. Why do you think we forget to look at what our competitors are doing, you guys, in our industry and respective businesses?
I think right now what you're seeing is there's so much disruption that the old school is, like, look at a hotel, looking at an Airbnb. Ha ha ha. These people don't know what they're doing. They don't know they don't know the history. They don't know how this whole thing works. I've actually had people tell me that in certain industries about other companies. I'm like, you need to watch this one company. Well, they don't know how this whole thing works. And and they think it's so dug down in the intricate details that they'll never win, where they're coming on in a completely different perspective, if that makes sense. So I think there's just this arrogance to it that we've been around for 50 years. We know this industry. They don't. Let's see what they can even try to do. And you've got these companies coming in. I mean, I hate using Uber because everybody tries to be the Uber of their particular industry, right? But look at, taxi cab drivers. Like, they were just like, I hated taxi cab drivers. I've had so many crappy stories of taxi cab drivers, but they didn't care. They weren't going to get disrupted, and nobody gave them, time of day. It's like, yeah, whatever. You don't know this industry. We're unionized, blah, 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 blah. And I think that's why they kind of turn their nose up at competitors, because, they feel that they're untouchable and they know too much. It's my thought.
Definitely agree, because IBM, if everybody were noticing, they were actually the pioneers of remote work. If you look back into the history in the 1990s, they started to do remote work earlier than anybody else. And initially it brought in a lot of profit for them, because they found out, hey, wait, okay, so we don't have to have more real estate, we save money on this area and things like that. But they found out after a few years that you can't fully go remote, because another thing that Gary mentioned, we're all social animals, so we need that interaction. There's no such thing as, I could not do this forever, going online and just seeing my computer screen, watching on this. There's no interaction, real live interaction right there, and there's no connection between the human being. So it's something to be aware of, and they actually backed out of the whole remote concept, after a certain time, and they found out, that the curve actually went back down and profitability actually did not continuously increase. But I think most of the time it's about balancing. So it can't be just remote. It can't be just face-to-face. It has to be a balance between multiple perspective, multiple options, multiple methods combined together to achieve the greatest results.
I love it. I love it. So let's focus that and wrap that up there, because I think we could learn so much more from Gary Hoover, and just these bullet points that we've even mentioned right now, I think is really good to leave that off. So Egbert, yet again, thank you so much for your time and joining us. For those that do want to get a hold of you, how can they reach you?
They can go to irefreshwellness.com and reach out to me anytime. Contact is on the website, and I'm available anytime through GLO too. So
yes. And Erin, do you want to do the spiel for GLO?
Yeah. So what we talked about, we had a meeting. It's a weekly Thursday meeting with GLO. GLO stands for Global Leaders Organization. Syya and I are the co-chairs of Dallas. We actually did have a very socially distanced, politically correct meeting yesterday, but very small group with Gary. But it was actually televised. I'm putting my age out there. Live stream. Internationally. So every Thursday you can join us free for those events. If you go to GLO.com, you can get those. You can also sign up for a basic membership. So if you missed Gary's yesterday, you can get up to 2 free of the sessions. Like I said, they're every Thursday. I mean, we're talking about amazing content, but you can get those over at withglo.com, and then join a premium membership and you can join Syya and I.
Excellent. And so for next week, to tune in, we are super excited. There are 2 GLO events going on next week. August 26th is a one-off special, and it is actually in the evening. Normally, the GLO meetings are in the mornings, but August 26th, Wednesday evening at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. We are really thrilled to have Patty McCord, former CTO of Netflix, to join GLO, talking about building a culture of freedom and responsibility. This is a Lessons in Leadership sponsored by Microsoft, as well as the next morning, August 27th, is with Deb Gabor. She joins us to discuss brands that thrive in turbulent times. So, I mean, guys, GLO is a lot about, content. Take it. It's free and available to you. Just sign up. And on that note, guys, thank you very much for joining us for another show of After GLO Live Recap Podcast. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Gregor. Bye-bye, everyone.